Mr. Burton of Indiana, Subcommittee Chair on Europe and Eurasia, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Madam Secretary, we take an oath of office when we become congressmen, and you, as Secretary of State, to protect the United States from enemies, both domestic and foreign. And one of the big concerns that I have is our dependence on foreign energy. Right now, we import about 65% of our energy from outside the United States. When we had the oil embargo back in 1972, the early 70s, we imported about 28%. So we're importing more than double the amount of energy that we did back then. The concern I have is the unrest in Libya, in Egypt. Hold that map up there. If you look all the way across the northern tier of Africa and into the Persian Gulf, you'll see that the potential for unrest is really, really severe. And I know you're doing your best, but nevertheless, there's still that problem. If the Straits of Hormuz is bottled up, if the Persian Gulf is bottled up, if they do something in the Suez Canal, we could lose at least 30% of our energy. We are dependent on that part of the world. Now, this country has not moved toward energy independence at all in the last 40 years. I mean, when we were importing 28% back in 1970-72, and now it's 65%, our dependency has continued on, and we've said we want energy independence. Now, T. Boone Pickens was in to see me a couple of weeks ago, and I've talked to others who say that we have the ability to become energy independent if we really want to do it. But because of environmental concerns, we're not moving. We're not drilling off the continental shelf. We're not drilling in the Gulf of Mexico. We're not drilling in the Anwar. We've got millions and maybe trillions of oil shale that can be converted into a coal shale that can be converted into oil, and we're not doing a darn thing about it. We're increasing and continuing to depend on foreign sources of energy, and this administration is doing absolutely nothing to deal with it. And as a matter of fact, they're impeding our ability to become energy independent. Now, we've got to do something about that. If we have everything go to hell over in the Middle East, and if our good friend in Venezuela, Mr. Chavez, who's working with Tehran right now, they have flights going back and forth every week, if they decide to put the kibosh on us, we're really in trouble. Can you imagine what it would be like to lose 30 to 40% of our energy from foreign sources because we're not drilling and getting energy right here in the United States? So my question, very simply, is this. Why is this administration, and you as Secretary of State, are one of the leaders who are supposed to make sure that we are protected from enemies, both domestic and foreign? And right now, you know, because you've been over there, the problems that we have in the entire Middle East. You know of the problems that we have in Venezuela. You know of all these problems, and you know of our increased dependence on foreign energy. Why is it? And can you take a message back to the President to say, look, it's time to get on with it. We need to do what's necessary to become energy independent. And the experts with whom I have talked, and I've talked to many of them, tell us we can become energy independent in the next decade if we really want to. As a matter of fact, T. Boone Pickens says if we did one thing, and that is convert our 18-wheel tractor-trailer units to natural gas, we could cut our dependence on foreign oil by 50% in the next decade. That one thing. And we're not doing a thing about it. And this administration, in my opinion, is being derelict in its responsibility. And you as Secretary of State, I implore you to go back to the President and say, this is not just an economic issue. This is a national defense issue that we're not doing a thing about. And we need to get on with it. And I'd like to have your response.
Well, Congressman, I actually agree that our energy dependence is a national security issue. When I served on the Armed Services Committee, I authored some of the earliest legislation so that we would begin to look at alternatives, that we could begin to use the large Defense Department budget to try to explore what could be done. I don't think there is any one answer, however. I do believe, and I have followed up on that by having the first ever International Energy Coordinator. In the QDDR, I have recommended that we have a whole bureau devoted to energy because I do see it, as you do, as a critical part of our national defense. I would take issue, as you might expect me to, with respect to your characterization of what this administration has done. There is a lot that can be done right now that will make us more energy efficient. There were a lot of programs and a lot of funding to move toward energy efficiency, which every expert I talk to says can have a dramatic impact on reducing our use of foreign and domestic sources. That doesn't mean that we don't need to look carefully at what else we can do in terms of drilling and the like. That's a longer-term prospect. I'm worried about right now, and I think some of the short-term decisions that are being made by the Congress undermine our march toward energy independence. And I think we have to look at a whole menu of what needs to be done.
Thank you so much.